For England, James? No. For me. Love it. All right, it's really quick, really quick.
Oh! That's how I feel.
Yeah. On to I've got a license to kill. Hold on to
your love. License to Kill, one of two Timothy Dalton movies.
Indeed.
Before this movie, I always knew Timothy Dalton through the fame of his cherished character of Mr. Prickle Pants. Yep, he's right over there in the bottom left, and there's no way you'd be able to see him. He's right under.
I can feel his presence.
I believe it's pronounced Yid-May.
To the left of the three, the white little blurb is underneath.
I can't see.
And he's there,
but I feel it. I feel it.
So I'm gonna say, I compared every Bond. He, of the six of them, wasn't my favorite Bond, actually. I think he was actually my least favorite Bond. And again, I don't want you to guys, here you're seeing what you're seeing on screen right now. I'm speaking to the audience again. Is part of our dynamic. If I know Brandon really likes something, I mean, it's hard for me to tell him that it wasn't my favorite. You know what I mean? And it's like, he doesn't want me to think like that. I don't want to think like that. It's just how I think. Again, I don't know if there are any actually bad James Bond movies. I don't know if it's like a Scream 3 situation where it's not good, but it's not bad, and it could be worse than what it is. So I don't know actually if there are some royal stinkers in the James. Are there?
Yeah.
But of the six, this was not my favorite, but of the 25, 26 of the movies, it might be different once I watch them all. But of the six, this one was not my favorite. It just really seemed like, let's just drop James Bond into a Scarface situation. Really.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And it seems like your average run-of-the-mill 80s cocaine heist kind of a movie. It seemed like you could have taken James Bond out of it and taken a few elements away, and it could have been something else. I don't know. It just didn't feel as Bondy as the other ones did to me. Again, I could be completely wrong, but
I don't recall there being a heist at all in this movie. But
okay, not a heist per se, but I'm just throwing words out there, Brandon.
It's
make me look dumber.
Very it's based heavily off of Risico, which is a James Bond short story by Ian Fleming. And so yeah, it's completely grounded in what James Bond has done. And it is very, in my opinion, it's out of the ones I showed you, maybe it's the least Bondian, but it's still very Bondian.
Okay.
And it's just, I love it. It's one of those movies that I have warmed to as time has gone on. It's really funny because there is a YouTuber out there named Calvin Dyson. He's
you mentioned in our cherished channel chat.
And he shares very similar feelings to me on this movie, that just Timothy Dalton in general, that when I was a kid, Same with Kelvin.
Like, particularly when I was a kid getting into Bond, I never connected with this one. I never liked it. And over the years, it really has sort of steadily gone up my ranking. So I'm curious.
My favorite was The Living Daylights. It's almost like that is the more kid-friendly, James Bond movie out of the two Timothy Daltons. In License to Kill, I couldn't stand it. And then as time has gone on, that completely flipped. So it's not that I can't stand The Living Daylights. I think it's okay. But License to Kill, I developed an appreciation for it. It seems like the same time that most of the other hardcore James Bond fans did as well, because this was not a very popular movie at the time. It didn't do super well in the box office.
Is that why there was only two Timothy Dalton ones?
There was a rights issue. So that's what was responsible for there being 6 years between movies. And because there was 6 years between movies, that's
between
why
the two Timothy Dalton movies?
No, between License to Kill and GoldenEye.
Oh,
so
okay.
They did ask Timothy Dalton to come back because that's how long it took. It took 6 years to work out the legal issues with the series. And they did ask him to come back, and he said, I'll come back if I can just do one movie and end it. It'll be my third movie. It'll be done. And they said, no, if you come back, you have to do at least 3 movies. And he said, I'm too old for that. Okay. So he turned it down, which, pained him, because out of all the actors in the series, Timothy Dalton is the biggest James Bond fan. So
that's sad.
He was the guy that he read all the Ian Fleming novels over and over again. Anytime there was a downtime on set of either of his 2 movies, all he was doing was reading. He was just reading the Ian Fleming novels. He wanted to embody that version of James Bond, and he very much so did. So the original Ian Fleming take of James Bond is very dark, very gritty. He might say some funny things here and there, but he's not throwing off one-liners.
Is that why there's not too many one-liners in this movie?
No, exactly. So because
that was one of my points. I noticed he wasn't very comedic. Not that he's like you said, not that he's a comedic character, but he's known for his little jabs and one-liners. And I noticed, he had
only
couple,
in the movie
but...
series is he known for that. He had some things here and there.
What happened?
Salt corrosion.
He really embodied the Fleming Bond to a T. And up until this point, he was the closest that anybody had ever come to a Fleming Bond interpretation. And he's just a badass. This is like the first time that you really get the idea that this guy might portray himself as being a fun-loving, kind of like, oh, nothing really bothers me, I'm cool as hell kind of guy. But this is a psychopath. This is the only person that can really do this job, is somebody who is a psychopath. He has a license to kill, and he kills people, and it never bothers him. Like, he doesn't care. So he definitely has some mental issues for sure. And it's like, this movie is the first time where you really start to see that. But you also see where he can be very manipulative as well. And just sort of like, he just sort of is a chameleon that can just slide into any situation. He befriends Sanchez. Sanchez has become one of my favorite villains, simply because of Robert Davi's performance, but also because he's like such a nice guy when you're not on his bad side. Like, he's so friendly and just so like,
no, don't go to the hotel. Save your money, huh? I insist. Stay here. Enjoy my hospitality.
Like, he'd be such a good friend, it seems, as long as you never pissed him off. But then when you get on his bad side, you're screwed because it's like, it's Scarface basically, like you mentioned. And that's what was popular at the time. And it's funny that you almost put that down as a negative towards the movie, that it was like James Bond meets Scarface, because when we were at work the other day and you hadn't watched the movie yet, and I told you, I was like, it's the 80s, it's 89. And at this time period, Miami Vice and Scarface and that whole scene was the popular thing. So I was like, this movie is basically James Bond versus Scarface. And you were like, that sounds awesome. And I'm like, I know. So it's funny to me that you have almost listed that as a negative. And then the henchman of Dario, played by Benicio del Toro, in one of
a young Benicio
first,
del Toro,
very young, in one of his very first movie roles ever, and he petrifies me. And you can tell that he's sort of like, learning from, Sanchez, but he just scares me, especially when he whips out that knife and stuff. I have other things to say, but I'll let you step in and say whatever you want to say before I do.
What do you think of James Bond's bar fight in this movie? Like James Bond is at just like a bar. I don't know. It seemed like he was out of his element.
He is, but it's not like
was
he's
just
hanging
different
out
to see him
there. It's to gather
True.
intel and whatnot. James Bond will always go into situations in order to get information, get intel. I mean, you haven't seen it that I know of, but in Live and Let Die, Roger Moore's James Bond goes into Harlem in New York City.
Oh God.
Yeah. So and things happen. So it's
okay.
That's a staple of the character, going into places that he wouldn't normally be.
Again, everybody, only watch 6 of them.
You watch 7 because you watch Casino Royale prior to all this, but
yes. All right. Is there anything else?
Oh yeah. So Felix Leiter is James Bond's best friend, and he's somebody that pops up from time to time, and he sometimes is played by the same guy, sometimes isn't, and he gets his legs bitten off by a shark.
Yes.
And Sanchez does that, and then attaches this letter to him. He disagreed with something that ate him. Yeah, so that's cool as hell. He obviously kills Della, which is Felix's wife, and James Bond goes out on a revenge, just a whole revenge mission. And that's what I love about it the most out of everything, is that this became like Daniel Craig's like big selling point in his series, among many other things, but he's always going rogue. That's like the thing. In fact, it's not even modern James Bond going rogue. It is every single modern movie where there's a secret agent in it, they go rogue. Look at the Mission Impossible movies. They're always going rogue. And this is like the very first time that James Bond, he's going out on a vengeance, being told that his license to kill is revoked if he goes out on this completely personal mission, but he doesn't care because his best friend and his best friend's wife have been attacked, so it's like, it feels very personal. He doesn't necessarily have the backing of MI6, so he doesn't have, at least at first, he doesn't have the gadgets or any of that kind of stuff. He has to just use his own wits about the situation. And because of that, it's dark, it's gritty, it has a bit of nastiness to it. And this also is the biggest role ever given to Desmond Llewellyn's Q. So Q ends up staying in the you know, like the apartment with him and Pam Bouvier. And he's like ends up being like the goofy uncle, basically, in that whole situation.
Pam, this is Q, my uncle. Uncle, this is Miss Kennedy, my cousin.
Ah, we must be related.
How do you do?
It is so damn cool. Like, usually they just take Q and they make him be the quartermaster, which is the person that supplies the gadgets, right? And so he does that, but he also hangs out for a really long time and is like spending, you know, the night in their hotel room and stuff.
I hope you don't snore, Q.
I mean, it's just, that is one of the major things I love about it. And then, if the movie could not get any better, James Bond ends up burning to death Sanchez with the very lighter given to him by Felix Leiter
at the wedding or something.
Yes. The very lighter that is given to him as a gift from them for standing up in their wedding is what he uses to burn Sanchez to death. And it is like unbelievably cool. It's exactly what that character deserved. And I don't know. I mean, I literally do not have a bad word to say about this movie.
I can tell. Trust me.
I love it. I love it so much. But yeah, so on to GoldenEye. I know his weakness. GoldenEye will do.
And you know the lyrics for all the songs too?
GoldenEye. Forever. Yeah, I mean most of them. What do you have to say about GoldenEye and Break My Heart?
I fucking love the music, ironically enough. I mean, not you singing it, of course, but I love the music in this movie. Do you know why?
The score?
Yeah.
Okay. Bye, everybody. It's been good.
It reminded me of the GoldenEye video game.
Kidding my ass?
2 hours later.
I loved the opening scene with the bungee jump. My stomach dropped as I watched it. I thought it was badass, and it was an amazing way to start the movie.
Yeah.
I like the whole premise and the whole atmosphere of this one. I like that it's in Russia. I like the references to the Cold War that they have in it.
Yeah.
The misogynist line, we talked about that earlier, but it's explicit in this one. We mentioned it at work. We also mentioned the beginning of the video, which, well, what exactly is the line?
I know what you're going to say. So it first starts off with the fact that this is the first movie to have a female M in it, which was like huge at the time. Like people were like, their minds were blown all over the wall. And then she calls him a sexist, misogynist dinosaur. Yes.
Point taken.
I loved all of the side characters in this movie. Like, this one was, of all 6 of them, I have to say the funnest watch for me. Like, it seemed like it knew it was a James Bond movie and it set out to be one. Yeah. I don't know. I just really enjoyed it. Even like so the
Boris, Alan Cumming.
No, Boris, I didn't see that twist coming, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that totally threw me for a loop.
Yeah. Obviously the Coltrane, the Robbie Coltrane. You got Russian Hagrid in this movie.
Yeah, it was cool.
They don't even have a picture of him in this. I'm disgusted.
Wow.
He's not that important apparently, but Valentine Zakovsky.
Also, again, the character of, I wrote it down because I was going to forget it, Xenia Onatopp.
She's a henchwoman.
Henchwoman, okay.
Yeah.
I fucking loved everything about her bizarro, crazy ass character. She's a fucking freak. And she
she is.
Is she like coming when she kills people?
Mm-hmm.
It's
She is. They had to dial it down actually.
Okay.
Because there was even more, if you can believe it. Like,
well, because at the beginning, when she kills the guy, it's like it was a sex setup. So like I get it, you know.
That
but
too,
then it
but
goes
like
on
the satellite, and she's like shooting up in the vents and like she's like licking her lips.
What?
Yeah, she's a fucking freakazoid.
Yeah.
And I loved it. It was so over the top.
Yeah.
Over the top, on a top. Anyway, that and as we said, Boromir, aka Martin Septim, aka Alec, aka 006.
AKA the man that dies in almost every single movie that he's in. Sean Bean.
Sean Bean.
As Alec Trevelyan.
Delivered a wonderful performance. And with how casual and cool he was, I think he could have been James Bond.
Oh, you know, he was up for it. He was up for it. Yep.
Okay, so I'm glad then that I didn't think something stupid.
It was basically like they were like, so we're gonna go with Pierce Brosnan because they, you know, this is the James Bond episode, so I will just say this, that for people that don't know, there was a period of time where Timothy Dalton wasn't cast as James Bond yet, and the fan favorite, as well as the studio's favorite, was Pierce Brosnan because he was on Remington Steele at the time. He was then asked to take on the role of James Bond, starting with The Living Daylights. He accepted. He came in. They did a press conference. They did a bunch of photos. Here's one of them, which they ended up reusing some of them for GoldenEye, but doing all these like promo shots and stuff. He was officially James Bond. And it was because Remington Steele was canceled. There is one caveat though. They had something like, I don't know, 30 days or something like that to shop Remington Steele around to all other networks. And if the show happened to be picked up by another network, he could not be James Bond. So they were down to the 29th day of 30 days. Pierce Brosnan already said he would be James Bond. And he was expecting that, okay, 30 days is up. I'm good to go. And that phone rang on the 29th day. He picks it up and they say, so Remington Steele was picked up by another network. And he had to then step down from being James Bond at that point so he could finish Remington Steele. And they only went on for like one more or two more seasons. Like it was nothing crazy.
Because regardless of Bond, I mean, I was quite happy. I was quite content that it had finished. I think the show had run its course as far as I was concerned, but obviously other people didn't. And one has a contract to honor, as it were. So here we are.
And then they were canceled again officially this time. And so they had to, you know, they found another actor, Timothy Dalton. So when Timothy Dalton left, Pierce Brosnan was the very first person that they approached. They were like, hey, you still want to do this? Because we still want you to do this. And he was like, sure. And they still had it in the back of their minds, though, that their number 2 choice was Sean Bean. So I think that they were probably like,
wow,
you know, so you can't be James Bond, but would you like to be 006? And so he jumped at that choice. And he's an awesome 006. I love him as being the, you know, reliable friend and partner to James Bond. But I also love him as being the villain as well. And you get both of it in this movie. So
Yeah, I overall, I don't know, man. GoldenEye was definitely one of my personal favorites of the six for sure. In fact, I think it might be my favorite of all of them.
Okay.
It felt like a 90s action movie. Exactly what it is. Um, watching these movies, something that, does date them is the technology in each movie is still, even though it's invented, it's so limited to, what was around back then. Just in terms of the way things look, really, like the old computers and the old sonars and radars and the older movies do look kind of weird in modern day. But in this one, they have the 90s computers. They have that stupid login screen with Boris's cartoon blown up head. It's so 90s.
The same exact thing that they do in Jurassic Park for some reason. Like, it was a thing to do in the 90s that you could somehow make a fake version of yourself that's like questioning you. So weird.
God damn it! Hate this hacker crap.
So it's almost like you said before that you have a lot of nostalgia for the Pierce Brosnan movies because it's the 90s. We grew up in the 90s.
Yeah.
It felt homey. I liked this one quite a bit.
It's great. And the Q scene is amazing.
Morning, Q.
See
The whole, there's like crazy stuff going on
I forgot to mention
them.
Thank you for mentioning that. I wanted to bring it up. I didn't write it down. Oh my god! So the recurring gag of the phone booth guy.
Yes.
I laughed so fucking hard the second time. Well, the first time, like, oh haha, it's funny. But then you see him being wheeled off, and he's still up there, and I'm like,
yeah,
how deliciously 90s humor has this whole scene been? Oh, that's my sandwich. Like,
I was about to say, so I love all that kind of stuff.
The chair with the
then looking
cast
at it
thing.
like, don't touch that. That's my lunch. And like, Q freaking hates James Bond. Like, there's such a he looks at James Bond as being like this child that keeps on ruining all of his hard work. Like, he is the one that makes all the gadgets. It is, he's putting all his life's work into this stuff, and James Bond treats it like it's trash. Like, he's always like, bring the car back in one piece. He never brings the damn car back in one piece. There's something really funny that happens later on in The World Is Not Enough to a car. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Q's not gonna like this.
So since I don't really have anything else left to say about GoldenEye, I will transition over to Skyfall. Sound good?
No, GoldenEye's great in conclusion. So yeah, Skyfall.
Definitely awesome. So we're gonna talk about Skyfall here.
Skyfall.
Feel the earth move.
Craig's Bond, I really don't remember too much about him from the first one, other than him like mercilessly beating someone's head into a sink at the beginning and then does the barrel shot, and I'm like, that's fucking badass. But his was kind of the hardest for me to adjust to. It seemed you mentioned earlier, I know you're giving me a face, but just hear me out. You mentioned earlier that Timothy Dalton did like the most by the book Bond, where he was more gritty and not so one-liner and funny. I feel like that's what Daniel Craig's James Bond is. Definitely taking the grit factor up by a lot.
Timothy Dalton's, like I said, Timothy Dalton's was the most Fleming-esque at the time. And it was surpassed by Daniel Craig for sure, and became Daniel Craig is, it depends what you're looking for in your James Bond, your realistic, hardened James Bond. You might prefer one over the other, but Daniel Craig in a lot of ways is the more Fleming-esque, but he's also the one that is universally loved. So he's like,
I'm not saying he's bad. I trust me, I did not say he was the worst Bond. I just said from what I
No,
was used to
I'm not-
with them being kind of a fun action adventure thing. This one was like, all right, well, this is an action drama. You know what I mean?
I
Because
look at Skyfall as a lot of fun. It's one of the more fun of Daniel Craig's movies for sure.
Well,
they're all
is
fun except for Quantum of Solace is the only one that is
but no one
just
likes
a
that one
trash
from what I've
bucket.
seen. But as far as the movie being fun, I really did like the introduction with the crane and the train sequence when he used it to crawl over onto the carts and then just casually fucking walks in there. Oh, I'm just
not only that, but he jumps down as he's about to fall back and goes and then continues walking. That was Daniel Craig's addition to that scene.
Okay.
It's so
His
cool.
Gene
And he
Wilder
gets
fall
shot
edition.
before that too.
Oh my god,
And
it's so cool.
There was the whole sequence with the motorcycle and just all of that. Badass, so awesome.
Who was at his side this whole time at the beginning sequence, right? It's our new Moneypenny,
correct?
Who is a fucking
the most
badass,
capable Moneypenny we've ever seen, hands down. Yeah.
So consequently, my favorite of all of them, as Moneypenny is the side character.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed. I mean, the movie just started off strong as fuck. Awesome. There he is. The movie starts off awesome, but then we kind of see this fledgling relationship between M and James Bond. And we see that even Ray Fiennes' character, who, God, what's his name? Something Mallory. Can't remember his name.
I don't know if they ever tell you his first name.
I did some research.
The important part is that it starts with
Ray
an
Fiennes.
M. Well,
Okay.
yes, but it also starts with an M. So
Yeah.
he, is able to take over the role of M.
Mm-hmm.
Which he does.
Also, tying in with that, so I did write this part down. Like I said, this is a different James Bond than what I was used to. He's definitely, like I said, he's more gritty, more realistic, and he seems in this movie like he's just fucking tired. He's been doing this for how long? He seems like he's been through a lot. And when he's going, he fails all like the physical and mental tests when he's going through that after faking his death or whatever it was. And
yes,
when they're talking to the psychologist or psychiatrist, you're always playing psychologist with us, Peter. And then when he's, says the first thing that comes to your mind, M, bitch. I'm like, oh, okay. So I loved female M in the Pierce Brosnan one that I just watched. What happened in between? I mean, there's a sizable chunk of movies in between, but
it happened when she told Moneypenny to take the shot.
Okay, yeah.
Then, for all she knew, did let him die and did nothing about it. Like, he's bitter as fuck about that.
Which leads me directly to the next thing I have written down. I just wrote, "Think on your sins" in quotation marks. That always keeps coming up on her computer.
Mm-hmm.
Who we find out later is the villain of this movie. And Q. I really, really, really liked Q in this movie. Holy shit. I wasn't expecting that character to become sort of a standout for me. And I liked the focus on practicality with his stuff. It wasn't just silly, like, pocket lint that you could detect people with, when he mentioned specifically, the gun Walther PK something, I'm not going to remember it exactly, but when he said it has the palm sensors on it that's only going to respond to your hand, I'm like, you know what? That is the smartest thing. I would have never come up with that. That's smart as fuck. We have finger, they call it biometrics, that's it. We have biometrics in our phones and in our, devices. James Bond could have it in his gun. I love Q in this movie. Totally awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So our villain in this movie, let's talk about our disgruntled villain here. Damn
Great
good
villain.
Job.
Scared me when I first saw this movie. And also, James Bond makes a weird reference to having sex with men in this movie too.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Oh God, what was the reference verbatim?
So he was talking to Silva, and Silva starts rubbing James Bond's legs as he's sitting there. And he's like, does it make you uncomfortable for this to be your first or something like that? And James Bond goes,
What makes you think this is my first time?
and then Silva goes, oh, Mr. Bond.
Oh, Mr. Bond.
Oh, it's so funny. I love that. Love that scene.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the rat story. You know, the rats in a barrel eating each other. And then there, after all of that, there's only one rat left. And then you take that rat out and you send it out into the population, because now that's no longer a rat that eats fruit or whatever. That's a rat that eats rats. There's that whole story there from Silva.
If someone told me that, I would expect to be murdered within, the next minute and a half.
Yeah. And then he makes James Bond shoot the glass off of her head and gives her that old ass gun that has like no way to aim that thing, but he tries his best. And
I think
just can't do it.
The old 007 left?
Javier Bardem's character in this movie is absolutely the most intimidating. Well, of the six, I don't know how much they stand, but holy fuck, intimidatingly scary.
Yeah.
So I'll give you that one. So actually, that's about all I have written down for Skyfall, unless anything else pops up that we're gonna.
That's weird. He almost has sex with Moneypenny. That's like an ongoing thing of the series where Moneypenny constantly kind of wants to bang James Bond.
I've tried everything else.
James Bond kind of wants to bang Moneypenny, and it's like a weird tension there, but it never actually happens.
Let me tell you the secret of the world.
And then this movie, it came the closest to possibly happening.
The official directive was to help in any way I can.
There is, I think that the scene at the top of that building in Macau, whatever, in Asia, it's like all silhouetted, and it's like blue lights and silhouettes. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. It's it's a fight between James Bond and another character, and he ends up getting like pushed out of the window and falling. That whole scene is absolutely gorgeous. They used it in like all of the like the whole marketing campaign of this movie because it is so cool looking. I think it's one of the best shots of the movie.
On a technical level, I would say this is the best cinematography of any James Bond movie I've ever seen. I mean, it's just visually fucking gorgeous.
I don't know if I would say it's the, for me, I don't know if I would say it's the best, but I think it's up there for sure.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe it's the best. I mean, definitely the cinematography is done by the most talented person to ever do cinematography, which is Roger Deakins, who did the cinematography for the next movie, and obviously same director of 1917 as well. Yes. So yeah, but Roger Deakins, yes. You know what? Yeah, 100%. Best cinematography.
Cool.
And it's funny too because he's like this old man. And he's just like, is just so good at it. And I don't know. There's a lot of M in this movie, which is really awesome. We see more of her than ever before. MI6 gets blown up. M dies, unfortunately, and the movie becomes Home Alone at the end, which is interesting. In James Bond's like childhood home, it just devolves into Home Alone. And also, here's another little fun fact for you. You know, the character of Kincaid has a bit of a thing going with M. Originally, that role was offered to Sean Connery.
That would have been fucking awesome.
That's what your mother said last night.
Maybe.
Nice little cameo, you know?
Yeah, it would have been interesting, I guess. So it ended up going to the other guy instead, who I believe passed away as well. So rest in peace to them both. But yeah, I don't know. I guess there's not much else to say. It's great though. And there's a really fun scene with kimono dragons. You know, they're like coming out of the shadows. And then like James Bond ends up like jumping on top of them to get up. And he's like, you know, after they attack the guy and kill him, he's like, the circle of life. And then continues walking. It's like, this is literally like the first time that we've seen Daniel Craig do the one-liners and just be that classic, you know, James Bond, basically. And also
be something I have to look out for in the Craig. How many Craig movies are there? 5?
5, yeah. But this brings us to the end. And
yeah, we have to wrap up because Brandon's gonna have one hell of a doozy with this episode. 6 movies.
Be a big deal. Yeah, I've dealt with worse.
Thanks, Brandon.
Indeed.
It's been a fun one.
Yeah, so we are officially brought to the end, and it was a success.
Great success.
Wow, you know these digital codes that they include in here are good up until 2026. Wow.
Yeah,
you know
they've gotten like longer with it because
I think I'm just gonna start selling them on eBay.
Do it or give them away. Comment
yes,
on our
indeed.
video and maybe we'll give you a code to a movie.
You could have gotten a free HD Ultra copy.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Comment and our favorite comment. Tell us what is your favorite James Bond movie, or tell us your favorite 6 James Bond movies. Who's your favorite James Bond actor? I don't know. Let us know. Our favorite comment just might get a code and just might get this.
Fade out to the song.